to all kind of doctors, New York, Philadelphia. Nothing helped him. If we'd known Dr. Goss probably back then, maybe there would have been some help. So you don't have to always look at the medical field to help you. Sometimes there's alternate ways, and this is what we're doing here. We're giving people the option. When the medical field says, oh, we can't help you anymore, then it's up to us to go out and seek other ways to help ourselves. So I'd like to bring Dr. Goss up to talk to you about iridology and about the different herbs that can help you. Please give him a warm round.
I'm gonna probably be as brief as I can so that if there's any questions and anything that anybody have to ask, that you have plenty of time to answer your questions, because I could sit here and talk about the things that I want to talk about and may miss almost everything that you might need to address or talk about. I put some drawings up here on the board because sometimes, you know, we happen to be people that understand art more than we understand, you know, just the verbal situation. Because most of the time when we have a gathering and you look around the room, you know, you don't see too many people, you know, with pencils and paper. And sometimes that is good. And it depends on, you know, the kind of education that, you know, you may have been miseducated about. And because if you can listen to any lecture, you can always take in that is going to have something to do with your being and discard everything else that is being said. That way you only remember that you need to remember, you know, when you depart. And that way you sleep good at night and don't have to worry about wondering, you know, what did they say? You know, is that true? All that, you know, you don't even forget it. But if you write it down on paper sometime, you may look around, you know, you may miswrite it. And say, did he say this? You know, yeah, he did, you know, and by the time you get through passing it around, you got a big problem, you know, also there. Last night I stated that when you were born, you knew everything it was to know about anything that it is to know. All we have to do is just grow into that. But it is from birth that we actually have been tampered with. The moment that you're born, in most cases, they will separate the mother and the child. That's something that should never be done. The mother and the child should never be separated. They'll also take the first milk from the mother's breast. This is especially of people of color. Take the first milk from the mother's breast, and that is a milk that is actually, in case some of you might know, some of you may not know, but that milk becomes very, very expensive. And it can easily be sold on the open market, you know, for some $25,000 just for that first milk that comes out of the breast. Because that's the milk that actually binds the mother, the child, and also to the environments and the elements that the child has to deal with throughout life. It also protects the child from most of the diseases and ailments that the child would ever come up with, of all these things that they give you shots to supposed to, you know, eradicate or keep you from getting certain diseases that were basically that are man-made. So it is definitely important to have that particular bond. I always say that it's best that a midwife is always in the picture of any birth of people of color, because there's a totally separate, different program, and there is a reason for that particular program. Now, we all know that the sum total of all knowledge is 33 1/3 degrees. If you don't believe it, ask the Masons, Eastern Stars, Phi Beta Kappas, and all the rest of the people. And they will actually tell you that if you can have 33 1/3 degrees, then you are a grand master of whatever it is that you're doing. And at the same time, you have that authority to give out that knowledge that is complete. But if you took a circle and somebody just gave you the circle and said, okay, where does it begin and where does it end? Nobody can tell you where a circle begins and it ends. Now, if you choose, to make a starting point and then come back to that point, then it's still not the situation of a beginning and an end. But if you took 33 1/3 degrees of that particular circle, then you got a beginning and you got an end. And you got a whole lot of things, that actually has been left out. Now, the one thing, that is actually needs to be killed and needs to be destroyed is the body itself. Now, if you notice from the beginning of time or from the beginning of certain times, the body has been under attack, and any means necessary to get rid of it is actually what is taking place at this time. Because there is something, that if you knew there would be nothing on this planet that could bother you in any kind of way at all. But you need to know you. The words that we use, when we start talking about, I start to say self-esteem. Is that it? Low self-esteem. Maybe that's it. Anyhow, self-esteem, low self-esteem, or whatever. It's just that if you have any kind of doubts at all about yourself, there is a program that was put in place when you were born to cause this to come about. You have been in a position to be annihilated from this earth, and almost every means necessary has been used. And yet, at the same time, the population continues to grow. There has to be something, about the body itself that is actually telling you that you have more power in living than you do in dying. The AIDS, so-called AIDS, I'm going to call it epidemic, and I want you to notice that I said so-called AIDS epidemic, which needs to be treated as something, that is real. In the year 1995, there was not supposed to be one black person left alive on the planet Earth, because the AIDS virus was supposed to have consumed every black person at that particular time. In 1985, it had been stated that 1 out of every 5 people living in America of color had the AIDS vaccine, the AIDS virus in their system. Now, that was way back then. So I'd just like to do this just to make sure, this is a 1985 census that they took, which they say that at this particular time, the AIDS thing has exploded, and it is more now than it was at that particular time. But if I just happen to say the ones that's right here on the front row, would either one of you, either one of you have AIDS? I just put that. I see, if neither one of them has AIDS, if those statistics is right, that means everybody else in the room got to have AIDS.
Right.
So since they were sitting on the front row and they don't have AIDS, y'all in trouble. Yeah. See, it's just that anything that is actually put out there, that you can actually believe is really going to be the thing that's going to cause you, to die. And you may even die, of stress, based on the statistics that is out there. It will also make you go and roll up your sleeve and get an AIDS test. and be inoculated with the AIDS virus on the spot at that particular time. As long as you have melanin, pigment, you don't have to worry about any shot that the market has to offer. Nothing at all. If at any time that something happens and you need to get any of those type diseases that they're talking about out of the body, it only takes about 10 minutes a day of standing in the sunlight, and it can be eradicated. You got the melanin, you have the pigment, let it work for you. It's just that simple. You know, the body is not nothing that's complicated, but it is complicated just because we go and get educated that it is complicated. And anytime that somebody tells us something's complicated, if we believe it, then it becomes complicated. This is a mathematical situation up here of 33 1/3 degrees plus a question mark. And only you can answer that question mark. No, nobody else can do that. Equals 360 degrees. Once you've gotten that, then you're actually at that point you're complete, and you don't really need to go any further than that. Now, one of the things that I do, you know, is called iridology. For those that are not familiar with it, it is a way of looking into the iris of the eye to find out what ailments or diseases or anything, you know, that's going on or breaking down in the body. And from that, you know, I'm able to tell you what to do to correct that problem and what to get rid of to make sure that these problems, you know, don't exist. Now, there's many ways of doing it. You know, the eyes, the hands, the feet, you know, and the body language, you know, even the way you walk, the way you talk, whatever it is, you know, there's a number of ways, you know, of actually dealing with the body to correct, you know, those problems. And any of these methods can be used successfully. You know, I use all of them, and sometimes I use the camera just because it makes the other person feel better. But normally I can just look at you for about 30 seconds and I can tell you all about you. And sometimes even psychologically. But I want to explain to you a little bit about the iridology from a different standpoint of basically what I'm looking for other than just basically looking into the eyes. Now I have a picture of the colon on the board. And I usually call the colon the heart of the body. You know, this thing here is a pump that happens to pump blood through the body to keep the body, you know, in whatever's going on. Something, you know, that is actually dictated to by the colon. And the applications and everything takes place in the brain. Now, one of the things that happens with the colon, and I'm going to focus it basically more or less on the 360 degrees, because we're also dealing with the 360 lobes that is in the colon itself. And each one of the lobes in the colon points to some part, major part of the body. And that part of the body has to be fed. That part of the body that has to be fed is going to come through that lobe that is in the colon. So the mark that I put on the board to show, you know, like the darkness that is there, that dark mark is the clogging up of the colon by putting in things into the body that somebody named and said it was food. And you can pick anything, you know, you want to, you know. I mean, it could even be one of them things that, you know, that if it don't get all over the place, it don't belong in your face. Cause you. They don't have that commercial out here, huh? Gee.
This is New Jersey. CKLS.
Do they have any Dennis Rodman's commercials out here?
No.
No? Oh, okay. Gee, y'all ain't hip to the good food. You got McDonald's here?
Yes.
Okay, you ever pack up the car and go to Jack in the Box? Okay. They don't have Jack in the Box here either. Okay. They have fast food restaurants here? Oh, gee. We are in a different world. But it's just those things. You know what barbecue ribs are, right? Yeah. Oh, okay. We're gonna get together in a minute. And cheese? Yeah. Okay. At least they got something to spread it across. When you eat these particular things that is no good for the system, the body does not know what to do with it. It can't digest it or tell the body how to digest it. And it has no use in the body at all. So it's wandering around in the body trying to find some place, to deposit the nutrients that is there, which has no nutrients. So it ends up clogging up the body in some way or another. So that's what this would be here, is that it's clogged up. Now, if that lobe just happens to be, say, for your kidneys, and the kidneys have to be fed like every other part of the body, once it gets to that particular point, if it can't get, the food value can't get out at that point, then it passes up and it can't go out any other place because that's the only lobe that is designed for the kidneys. So even if you're eating good food and food that is to feed the kidneys, it can't feed the kidneys because the lobe is closed. So it's going to pass by. Now, once you clean that lobe out, now it can actually feed the kidneys. So you need to actually know what you're eating and know what particular foods you're eating that is the particular lobes in the body that causes you to have the deficiencies that you might have. And then all those problems can be solved just simply by cleaning the body out from that. Looking into the iris of the eye, you actually see the lobes and stuff that is actually closed up. Because the people that I've taught, to do the iridology, I teach them, with using the colon. So I take the colon and I put it right in the middle of the eye. And then it points to each part of the body. And then all these things in way of design shows what is happening to the body at the time that it is happening. Now let's say if the lobe is open, then the food value goes to a particular lobe and it ends up into the liver to be dispersed whenever the body happens to need any nutrients that is there. It goes into the liver, and we use a modern day term that they use, as simple sugars. This is different than sugar. But whatever you eat is supposed to be turned into simple sugars. The body itself actually can produce from the liver that has been processed through the colon. Now, so far, if you go along with me, do like that. No? Okay. I'll back up, if I have to. This part of the body right here, anybody know what this is? Anyhow, that's for those that you don't know, that is the appendix. Now, it is stated, this is in all medical science, all medical everything, is that we don't need the appendix anymore. So they just in the body, it's a waste product in the you really don't need it, so the best thing to do is take it out. And a lot of people will go and get the appendix taken out, based on the fact that somebody said they didn't need it. So if you happen to be somebody in here, that happen to have your appendix taken out at any particular time, then in most cases, you can usually tell. Let's see, is anybody in here had their appendix taken out? Don't raise your hand, if you've had your appendix taken out. Because there's a certain thing, about a fear situation that can come up over the body just because the appendix has been taken out. Now see, if you take a look, you know, and you see that what I'm doing here, and I said I was going to do a demonstration and showing you, you know, you were actually sitting there looking, then all of a sudden you would wonder, you know, well, what is the demonstration all about? Okay, now in most cases, what would happen is that if you did this, you might not have no appendix. They may have taken your appendix out. Now I ask the question, anybody here had the appendix taken out? Did you flinch? You didn't flinch. Oh. Everybody else flinched, you know. Okay. But that's one of the normal things that happen. And this can follow you through life based on whenever anything comes up and you think that something is wrong with you, you'll go to the doctor in a minute to get checked out to find out what in the world is going on in the body. All because the nutrients that is actually going into the system that may be of a poison nature is now dispersing itself, you know, through the body because the appendix is not there, you know, to protect it. Now the appendix, so if you've had your appendix taken out, you want to make sure that you become a vegetarian. That's like a must, because you don't need to, you don't have that protection, so you have to now use the protection from up here. And you do that, you'll never have any kind. At the same time, everybody really, you know, should be vegetarian. The statement on the appendix, the reason that you don't need it is because we are no longer vegetarians. We are now meat eaters. So we don't need to process the food that vegetables produce. You can now get it, you know, it's already processed through the meat. Now, we all know that everybody's not meat eaters. We know that. You know, it might be a very high percentage, but at the same time, when the appendix was supposed to be for vegetarians. So, usually people of color, their natural habitat is vegetation. And that's what it is. You don't have the digestive enzymes in your system to digest meat. Now, if you were a European descent, you would have those digestive enzymes there to digest meat. And that's totally two different situations, you know, and the body itself responds to that based on the fact, you know, that there's at least 1,000 different things that is different from people of color and those people, you know, that are not. And you can do some of the examinations, you know, on yourself, you know, as far as, you know, the sunlight and in intense heat. If you ever worked into an office building and you was the only person there of color, you would find that in the summertime, you'd have to wear a coat.
Right, the air.
Because everybody's going to have their air conditioning on and they're going to freeze you to death. And they will still be trying to get rid of the heat that is there. The heat situation, you know, when we're talking about, well, even in the ozone layer and being depleted and destroying it, you know, being destroyed. That layer was actually put there, you know, some number of years back. And it was for the protection of those people that didn't have the melanin and pigment. So now that layer is being broken down, and at 60 degrees, with that layer being broken down indoors, you could have heat strokes, you know, if you were not people of color. And this is the kind of thing that is actually happening, and it's just that we can't get enough cold weather. Now, if you think, you know, that there's not a difference, then the Polar Bear Club on January the 1st is going to jump in the water and go swimming. And they've been trying to get people of color to join them for years. So there's an invitation that's been out there for a long time, and nobody's accepting it. It's probably one of the only organizations that's out there, you know, that people of color don't say we can't get into. You know, it's almost like saying, you know, I want to belong to the Ku Klux Klan. They won't let me in. Nobody's going to follow you out into the desert either. There's certain things you know about the body that because of the lobes in the colon, that it's going to sustain your life. Now, these are some of the things that can actually break the body down that we actually deal with a lot. Now, that is, if there's anybody in here that smokes, take a look at your cigarettes. Look at the pack. Read what is on the back of it and believe it. It says it'll take you out of here. It'll kill you. Anybody that is using tampons, read what it says on the back. It says it will take you out of here. It'll kill you. You know, we buy it, but we don't read it.
I don't buy it.
Oh, you don't? Okay. That's good. And all you have to do is just look at the back. And it'll tell you, you know, toxic shock syndrome and all this, you know, and that you can die, you know, from that. Anybody that is using toothpaste, I would suggest, you know, you do go to the health food store and buy your toothpaste. Because all you need to do is just pick up the toothpaste package in the store, read the back of it, and it tells you if you swallow by accident 1 drop, immediately get to a poison control center to have your stomach pumped. It says this on the box, you know, the toothpaste that you actually use to brush your teeth. Then we ask, you know, the question, you know, what is wrong with these children? I mean, you know, you're giving it to them, you're killing them. You give them the toothpaste that says it's going to kill them. They brush their teeth, they swallow a lot of it. Now they got a problem. Then you wonder, what is the problem? This can go on and on. I mean, I could name a whole lot of different things, you know, but whenever you go into the store, pick up the package or whatever it is that you're going to get and turn to the back of it and read it. You know, you can get a cereal, and the cereal in there has the hardest drug or the worst drug that this country has ever known. And it's usually the first or second degree ingredient in the entire container. And it's supposed to be good for you. So when you start talking about cocaine, crack, heroin, all that, these are drugs, you know, that is actually on the scale would be rate 9, 10, 11, or something like that. So there's a lot of other drugs before that that needs to be addressed. The worst one is going to be sugar. And most of us, you know, are going to have that sugar addiction. And if you happen to be one that eats sugar and you decide, you know, you want to get off of it just for a test to see if it has any effect on the body at all, you know, give yourself 1 week and make sure you got some long fingernails because you will be climbing the wall because of that sugar. And then sometimes, you know, for those of us that, you know, that may say that we don't eat sugar, haven't had sugar in a while, you know, if you pick up something by accident and you happen to taste it and you taste a little sugar in it, you might feel a little guilty, look over your shoulder, make sure nobody's looking, and then you go ahead and finish the sugar. You know, you can't hide behind people not looking. You have to actually, you know, take charge of your body and do that is needed to be done to your body, for your body. You may be, you know, bothered with fibroid tumors, prostate cancer, ovarian cysts, or these particular things. And if you are, then you need to know where these things is coming from. Now, when it comes to sugar, dairy products, and meats, most of our problems is going to be surrounded around those, because this is the education that we get when we go to school. Dairy products has a chemical in it, or a hormone in it, which is called diethylstilbestrol, which is the same thing that is used in birth control pills. As a matter of fact, it is the birth control pill. And what happens is that when this DES gets into your system, it doesn't have any place to go, and it attacks the genitals. This is when everything goes wrong. And if it's anybody in here, you know that if you eat cheese now, you know you're totally addicted to it. If you used to eat cheese a long time ago, you still have those flashbacks to the point, you know, where sometimes you may want some cheese. And sometimes it's, you have to convince yourself that I'm going to have to do without, and you know, and not do it. But in most cases, what'll happen is that you'll eat a little bit of it, just for that satisfaction, you know, to the body. Now, most of the time, we have to get sick before we realize that we shouldn't have done it. That's where the melanin, that's where the pigment, that's where all the other things of the chakras and all this stuff should come in at. Because you got to realize, you know, that when you're eating or consuming anything into your body, you got to deal with the entire body, the whole body at the same time. And every part of the body is going to play a part on the other parts of the body, and it is actually looking for it. So if you put it into your mouth, that may be one way that you were eating it. But at the same time, when you were smelling it, that also was another way you were eating. When you touched it, that's another way. So it just keeps going from one way to the other way to make sure, you know, that the body is in harmony and that each part of the body is playing a part in all the things that you consume, no matter how you consume them, through what you see, what you feel, and consume. This also has an effect on the lobes in the colon, or whether these lobes are going to be open up to let that particular part of the food out into the body, you know, for the life that we cherish so much. Now, this is when it gets to the point, you know, where it's either one or the other, and that is either extremely complicated or extremely easy. Now, there's if I said to you, it is hard to eat right based on what we have out in the elements. And then I said, it is easy to eat right based on what we know. Now, did it take any more energy to say one of those than it did the other? So if it doesn't take any more energy to say one than it does the other, you know, get yourself in the habit of doing those things that's going to be good for you. So when you say, you know, I can't do that, and shaking your head that way, you know, just say, I can do it. Shake your head that way. It's just as easy to make a mistake as it is to do it right, or vice versa. I'm going to do this, you know, because I think that you may have some questions, and we need to probably deal with those particular questions, you know, that you have. That's enough. Okay.
You just, again, like last night, you mentioned about your product line and your endeavors.
Okay.
Started giving more questions.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's see that. Okay, I can. You know, one of the things, you know, before you get to your questions, is that in Arizona we have a resort, and the resort is actually there for people of color. Arizona, like some of the other states, have certain laws that is on the book that does not protect people of color. And this is one of the reasons that we have the resort there for people of color. Whenever the time comes, you know, and we don't know when that'll be, and that'll be when the laws change, then it can be for everybody. But right now, you know, it's for people of color because based on the laws of this country. So we do have, I have a flyer here, you know, that hopefully we can get enough of them, you know, out, and it has the events of what is going on, you know, in Arizona. And getting the feedback? Mother? Okay. I thought it was kind of talking to, okay. And we do have about 8 seminars a year. The next one coming up is the harvest. This is where we actually harvest some of our products. This is the products that you actually see. Here in some of these containers, we have over 90 different products that we use. Fortunately, when they decided, that they were going to take all the products off of the market and put them into the pharmaceutical situation, which right now Rexall Drug is the largest herbal company in the world, and yet they don't sell any herbs. So you can see why they're the largest. It's that the government gave them the money, and they bought up all the herbs. So the best way to do it, was go and make your own. So we do harvest, during this next particular seminar coming up. We do harvest all year, but we do our own manufacturing. Right now the only black herbal manufacturing company in the world, and been that way for the last 23 years. Okay, you can do that. Okay. Arizona has 800 acres of land, and I don't know whether or not you know how much 800 acres of land would be, but don't try to walk across it in a day. That's, if you do, walk fast, because you might not make it back before dark. There is another one in North Carolina. It's not finished yet, but it's very close. We do accommodate people there at this particular time, but it's not finished. But we had to have one on the East Coast and one on the West Coast. One's more of a desert type in the mountains, and the other one's more of a rainforest. And there are other places of resorts of people of color across the country, but they are never advertised. That's also another one of the rules and regulations, is that you don't advertise it. In other words, so you don't see them in magazines and that type of thing. I think the only one that you might see that might be advertised in anything is Cottonwood, Alabama. That's probably the only one that's out there, but yet there's a number of them throughout the United States.
You mean that's one of the rules?
Hmm?
You mean that's one of the rules?
One of the rules? Well, see, here's what the rule. This is. Let me explain the rule to you in another way. I'm sure you would understand it. When I started doing the thing that I'm doing, there was about 50 of us that was going to deal with this, and we was going to keep it black. I could name any number of people, but I can name some that you might know about, and that is, well, Dick Gregory had a resort. He had a resort. He brought the wrong people in. The resort is still going on today. Famous Amos had his cookies. His cookies is going strong out there today. He has nothing to do with it. If he bakes a cookie, he goes to jail because he let the wrong people in. And it can keep going on and on, all those people, that I was there with, and they just says, if you want to make it big and you want to get the money real fast, you got to let them in. And I said, I'll take my time and do it my way. So that's the rule. It's called an unwritten rule. And until laws are passed to protect that, then this is what happens. You've heard of Allensworth, Rosewood, Sun City. I mean, I could keep on doing. I could even say the whole state of Oklahoma. You know, I mean, we can go. And even not too far into this, there was a guy named Roebuck.
Yes.
Maybe in this part of the country, you might see the word Roebuck, but in the part of the country I'm from, that name doesn't exist. Man starts a company, he keeps that company for 15 years, and after 15 years, they decide, you know, you're black, you can't get no license. He takes on a partner that can get the license for him, and then he loses. You know, it's a rule. You know, we just don't know about it. But we find out about it when we make that mistake. But when those rules are changed, then anything else can be changed. But that's what, and that happens, you know, on a day-to-day basis of people that you don't even know about. And it's just that I mean, even at one point, the Malcolm X school in, I think in New York or someplace, was threatened to be shut down simply because there were no white people there. Some of you might know something, you know, about that. And it goes on, you know, across the country. And in California, you know, it is really bad there, you know, because a holistic practitioner can't even be licensed at all. You know, I've been through, you know, my situations. I don't normally talk about it, but I got off the plane in Houston International, Continental International in Houston, Texas. I had no luggage. I knew my luggage was there because I always wait and get off the plane, you know. I just sit there until people, you know, get off because I kind of like that space. I didn't see no luggage. When the next thing you know, I looked at my luggage and it was sitting in the middle of the floor. Everybody was gone. When I picked up my luggage, I had 15 guns at my head. I think that was the day I learned to pray. But, and all of it was about this. That's what it was about. But that's been a little while ago, and I'm still here. I've had to go 6 years through court, where we went to court every month. I had 4 judges presiding. There was no jury, just, you know, lawyers for the state of California on one side, and I was defending myself on the other side because the judge says that the 12 counts that was brought against me, if I lose any one of those counts, I go to jail and my lawyer defends me from the jail cell. Well, to this day, for any reason or no reason, I've never been to jail. Don't intend to ever go. Because, see, there's some things that actually can happen to the body, you know, when you do it right. In other words, make sure that those lobes in your colon is open. And then when that happens, anything that comes up against you, you're already prepared. You start closing it up, they find out what they can attack on you, then they will actually do it. They will attack it. After the 6 years, I won my case, and won the case with a note saying, you know, I was called in for a hearing that had nothing to do with the case. They had all these college professors there, and they said, if you can take, you know, we need to take what you know and get it into the public schools for credit, other colleges. And stupidly, I said, I think it's a great idea. What do you want me to do to start? They said, that's not what we had in mind. They wanted me to teach the professors. And they could do it because they're better educators than I am. You know, I mean, I feel like if I'm qualified to educate the educators, I don't see no problem, you know, with the other part. But it's just that at that point, you know, I wasn't so stupid, and I just decided to not continue to act stupid. And I said, you know, I think it's a great idea. Let me think about it. So I'm still thinking about it. Because like everything else, take it and mess it up. You know, if any of you here ever been into a hospital and you've gotten the treatments that you've gotten in that particular hospital, you know that they don't know what they're doing. Just as simple as that. And at the same time, they're treating your body on a basis of where they can only cover 33 1/3 degrees of what's there. I mean, if you was born with 360 degrees, why you want 33 1/3? Now, you know, I'm not talking about any of you here that might be Masons and Eastern Stars and all that other stuff, you know. That's the thing, you know, that basically you have to deal with, and let that 33 1/3 degrees that you have make you smart enough to seek out some help to get the rest of what you own. You want me to show you? Oh, no? Okay. So basically, this would be the eye, and this points to each part of the body all the way throughout the body. And it takes care of everything that is in the body, you know, from the head to the toe. And whenever something breaks down, it will show up in the eye. And then there is methods and means that you can do to get rid of it. And last night I mentioned about some of the people, you know, with glasses on, you know, and it's kind of funny. Today, there's not that many glasses in the room. Because I think you must have took them off in your purse someplace. But you don't need those glasses, you know, because if the doctor told you that he was giving you those glasses so it would make your eyes better and you went back later and got a heavier prescription, then he lied to you. So you need to seek out another means to find out, you know, how really to make your eyesight better. And it can be done. It just could be just a little simple thing that you're doing to your body that you need to get rid of. Or it may be something that you need to take to enhance that part of the body. Or it could be a lobe that is in the body that needs to be cleaned out so the food value that you're eating that is wholesome can get to the body and rid you of that situation. And for those of you, you know, that are wearing glasses, have you noticed that when you go to the bathroom and have a bowel movement, that your eyes clear up a little bit?
Yep.
Check it out. You know, so that should tell you something there, is that just a simple bowel movement increases your eyesight. So it should tell you, you know, that, well, like Dr. Africa puts it, you know, it should tell you you're full of shit. Yes.
I wonder, why do they have people take their tonsils out? You find a lot of children have tonsils taken out.
Yeah, usually what happens is that the tonsils may get inflamed, you know, because of radiation. And see, a lot of times, you know, we don't have time as a whole. Keep in mind, when I say we, I'm talking about as a whole. Okay. To actually prepare the meals or whatever is being done, you know, and if it's going to be done, you know, in the school and all that, microwave ovens are used very, very heavy. You know, they use them in the school for the school lunch program. They also, you know, people also use them at home. Well, the microwave oven, you know, puts off radiation. And that radiation goes in, you know, and it messes up the tonsils, the thyroid, and all this in the body. And they get inflamed and they need to come out. That's really, you know, what happens. At the same time, the consumption of dairy products, you know, such as milk, ice cream, cheese, and all that, it also messes up the tonsils. And this is one of the reasons that they have to come out. Now, anything that's going to mess up any part of the body whatsoever has zero nutritional value.
Do you have
That's the first thing that I know. Most of the children, when I was coming up, they're from 1 to 6 years old, get their tonsils tonsils out. They always have something wrong with their throat. But I noticed that when they're in the hospital, as soon as they have them, they ask them what do they want after they have the tonsils out, and then they give them ice cream, something cold, and they give them soda, and the kids just love it. And they rather have the ice cream than food. Yeah. And then you find grown people around in my neighborhood, as soon as the ice cream truck comes, that's the first thing the kids get, and they haven't eaten all day, but they'll eat that ice cream. So I just was wondering, what can you give them in place of it that's cold? Ice cream.
You know, you can actually take a number of things, you know, and replace all that. If you took bananas, frozen, you know, you could make ice cream with it. You can make popsicles. I mean, you can do a whole lot of things with just a ripe banana. And if you needed to, you know, you could load it up with nuts, strawberries, cherries, you know, to give it the different flavors, you know, that it needs. And, you know, that's it. You can even take a banana, you know, and blend it real good and put a little drop of lemon in it, and you got sherbet. So, you know, it's not going to be one of those things where they're going to say, you know, I don't like this, I need some ice cream. Because if you don't teach them the drugs, they're not going to know the drugs. And because we even get addicted on certain things, you know, is that when is the last time that you actually had a vegetable plate and could be blindfolded and tell everything that you was eating? See, a carrot is supposed to taste like a carrot. A piece of celery, like a piece of celery. But by the time we get through with it, you don't know what it tastes like. You got to see it to know what you're eating. You know, you close your eyes and you eat it, and you don't know anything. It's because that's not what we're really addicted to, or eating. We're actually eating something totally different.
I was wondering if you knew of any herbs or treatments that could help an individual who has lupus, arthritic lupus.
Yeah, actually the lupus situation is nothing but arthritis. That's really what it is. It's just that it's arthritis in the blood. And basically the same feelings, you know, you're going to get from one as you're going to get from the other one, even though they work a little bit different on the body. But I do have a formula, you know, that is called ART that works on that. But at the same time, alfalfa can actually supply the body, you know, with that it needs to put that lubrication in the joints, and at the same time clean up the blood to take out that poison that is there, that is causing the body to ache and go through the changes that it goes through.
There's some literature on that, any documentation, or need I see you in consultation?
Yeah, I got the, there's a book called Forever Young. I forgot who put the book out.
So everything is described in the book?
Yeah, it's described. And the other one is Rebirth of Gods. There's things in there, you know. The two books, what happens with the two books is that one of them is dealing with the common sense factor, you know, why we do certain things that we do, and the meaning that it has. In addition to that, with what you should be doing to clear up the problems itself. The other one deals with the problems itself, of what's there and what to do.
Thank you very much.
In the book, is there a method or a process to begin to use the herbs or the formulas that you have? Is there a formula to begin to unblock the loads, or, I mean, to begin to get on a diet plan?
Yes, it's there is a third book, one called The Natural Way.
We'll get that.
Okay, yeah. And
oh, wait a minute. What are you talking about? The, yeah.
Just, do you recommend the process,
Brochure.
like maybe it's 21-day beginning process? You know, I know this is a lifetime kind of thing. But
Yeah, I have a process which we call a 7-day cleanse, and that particular process, you know, will actually clean out those lobes.
Okay. All right. Good.
The and then, you know, the iridology situation itself, it will tell you basically what is there. It's the same thing. If you've ever had anything like an acupuncture done on you, or acupressure done on you, where the person, you know, actually, you know, pushes into the foot, they feel basically what is going on in here. But at the same time, you also feel what's there, because they can push on your foot, you know, and your shoulder. And, you know, that's the way of knowing, you know, that something is blocked through there, because that pain would have never came up, or it only came up when they touched the wrong nerve.
Are you doing sessions today? Or are you doing?
I'm glad you're speaking about the woman. I didn't know any better, but when she was an infant, she had a spinal tap. And since then, she's had chronic ear infections. Her bowel movements aren't regular. It's always backed up or something. They're always doing something for her. Every time I go to the health food store, it's like they really don't know her condition, or they don't really evaluate her condition. They just say, well, use this and use this. I was wondering if you can give her a consultation to see, see what's wrong, like through her eyes, and see what's wrong on the front or
Good. There's appointments. I have 5 appointments today, and there's 6 appointments left for tomorrow.
fine.
So you let us know.
Fine. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, tell them about the teeth.
Yeah.
Tell them about the
Teeth.
teeth. Yeah. No cavities.
Oh. I think the reason, you know, actually I don't have cavities. Never have had any. Because in my upbringing, there were certain rules and regulations that had to be, you know, done in my family. And at the same time with the herbalist that was in the community, you know, which was, you know, my teachers. Most of us, you know, they would, especially would do what they would tell us to do, never had any cavities. And not even the, you know, like, you don't get a cavity, but you get that dark stuff, you know, in the bite and all that. You know, we didn't even get that stuff, you know, so I don't have any of that dark stuff down in there, you know. It's just, you know, good teeth. And the diet definitely has a lot to do with it. I never drank anything but spring water. And all I have to do, usually I can smell the water and know whether or not it's spring or not. Because if you get any kind of a chemical or Clorox smell, you know it's not. So you leave it alone. Fortunate, you know, even now that I don't even have to buy water. Sometimes I buy water, you know, when I'm on a trip. But since I have water on both ranches, I just load up my bottles and just continue to keep them loaded up, you know. At least I know how long it's going to be before I get back to one of the places, and I get enough water to last me till I get back. And this is basically the way that I do it. I don't use toothpaste. You know, toothpaste costs too much money. There's an easier way of doing it. You know, there's a lot of toothpaste, I think, that, well, this must be back in the bag now, but anyhow, for some of you remember that the fruit things that was sitting over there, that's great toothpaste. You know, some of the best toothpaste you can get. If you take the foods and you break them down, you know that you find pepsin, which is an enzyme, you know, that breaks things down. And you find it in fruit. And an apple is a good example. You take the piece of fruit, you put it in your mouth, and you chew it. And you just leave it there. It cleans your teeth. You don't even need the toothbrush. That costs money, too. And that's what you do. You just chew on it. It's almost like the chew stick. You know how you can use it to brush your teeth with too. It's a simple thing like that. But you can take any piece of fruit, basically. You know, I prefer the apple. You know, because sometimes you know you can just bite into the apple and just hold it there, and it'll clean it. It'll clean the plaque and all this stuff out your teeth. And, you know, many other things to do. And if you got to brush your teeth, just use water. That's enough. You don't need nothing else. Okay. Oh.
I have a question about administration not being a natural process. I was reading that's unhealthy. We need to go through that process.
Yeah, well, let's see. Not necessarily unhealthy, but not necessary.
Not necessary.
Right. Because the way we do our bodies, it is definitely healthy to go through that process. But it's unnecessary based on the things that we actually do to our bodies. Most of the time when somebody comes to me, you know, and they're planning, you know, to have children, I usually try to get them to wait at least, you know, 24 months. You know, put it on a 24-month cycle and make sure that during that time that their diet and everything, you know, is right. And, you know, it doesn't stop any activities, anything that they're doing, but it's just that before having the child, at least clean the body out, you know, for at least 24 months. And the reason for it is that the normal, now this is the normal, I'm talking about, you know, people of color at this point. The normal span for childbirth is 12 months. The prenatal care situation makes sure that it's going to be either 9 months or less. And if something happens and the baby is not born in 9 months, then the doctor wants to induce labor. That baby is not going anywhere. It's only one way for that baby to do it, and that's come out. So there's no need of trying to induce no labor, you know, because something being overdue. If something's overdue, what are you going to do, send it back? Yeah. No, it's just that there's a reason, you know, for the prenatal. And there's a reason, you know, to make sure that the baby is born, you know, in 9 months. Because if it is, then that means that the lobes in the colon, the things that's going to give you all the lifespan that you need, you know, from the heart of the body, which is, you know, here, won't be fully developed, even though they'll be developed. They won't be fully developed, and then that gives enough room for you to be dictated to and actually make a difference. Now, they got a thing out there, you know, that is talking about the, the attention deficit disorder. I think that's what it is. You know, in other words, they can't do anything with the child. You know, that whole problem can be solved not with the retina, but with a computer. Give the child a computer, you know, something, you know, that there's a challenge. Now, when I went to school and they told me that Columbus discovered America, I said, okay, and I wrote it down. I believed it. They look at it and they say, wait a minute, this man was waving. I mean, there was thousands of people on the shore waving at him, and he said, look what I discovered. You know, they said, that's a bunch of bull, you know, so they don't go for that. So it's boring to them in the classroom, so they rather do something else. There's nothing wrong with them. And then the other thing is that because of the high cost of the hospital, a lot of these babies are being, you know, they're coming into the world after the 9 months is over, and you can't do nothing with them. You know, when I was going to school, there's 9 of us. My parents went to the school and let them know, you know, that was when, you know, if you did something wrong, you know, you got a whipping right there in school. And if anything else happened, you know, you had to deal with it another way. But it wasn't no such thing, you couldn't punish the child. But my parents, would make it, point blank every year that I was never to be punished, for any reason whatsoever. But to notify them, and then they, would punish me. But all the rest of it, all the rest of my sisters and brothers, they got tore up, at school. But I didn't get that. Sometimes I wish I had got it at school, because when I got it at home, it was a whole lot worse than what they did at school. And the reason is because I was an analyst. I analyzed everything, probably from that thing. I mean, I had a word that I always used to say, why? And I found out that when I use the word why, nobody can answer the question. So I know something must be wrong, and then I would retaliate, to that point. And in school, you got to be punished for that. But the 12-month baby is the very thing that is not supposed to happen in this particular country. And anything that you can do to cause that to come about, if you're planning childhood, then that's basically what should happen. You live in a cycle that deals with 12 months. Everything that produces in a 12-month cycle comes about at the same time. If you're looking at apples on a tree, that apple tree produces those apples at the same time every month. Those birds or ducks or whatever it is going to make that cycle that it makes at the same time every year. The fish, the salmons, do their spawning upstream at the same time. The dolphins, the whale, everything you can think of does it at the same time. And in every case, it comes to the day of 12 months that it's happening. And when you have a birthday, that birthday comes 12 months. But is it really your birthday? If you were 9 months, then 9 months from that day is your birthday. If that's the way it is. But that's not the way, that our cycle is running. So something has to be done to actually make up for those 3 months that is missing, or whatever number of months it's missing. Whether it be 1 month, 2 months, or even 4 months. Whether you're a 7-month baby, or 11-month baby, or whatever. That has to be made up for that particular time. And I've even got a set of formulas to make up for that deficiency that you have in those 12 months. I disguise every one of them by giving them a name, like Pisces, Aquarius, Leo, and whatever. And these particular minerals, that you would normally be missing is, in that particular formula. And, it actually could keep you from getting sick during the year when you have these certain kind of ailments that you have. And it could dissolve that. I don't even know where I answered your question.
Attention deficit.
I wasn't saying that the process is unnatural, but what I was saying
Right.
was
The herbs that...
leakage. Isn't that unnatural? Yeah, the hemorrhaging.
Yeah, see, here's what happens. Whenever you enter anything into the body, that the body can understand. If it has anything to do with the reproductive area, then it's going to lodge itself there. That is actually debris, toxins, or whatever you want to call it, that is in the system that has to come out. So all this stuff builds up along, with the eggs and whatever, that has to be discarded from the body. And it forms itself in the way of blood. And then it has to be discarded from the body monthly to keep from getting cancer. Because anything that sticks around too long is going to start decaying, and it's going to spread. And that's basically, because the foods that we eat causes that particular problem. Men go through the same problem. The only difference is men eliminate on a day-to-day basis. But that can also get overloaded, and this is where the prostate cancer, comes in at. And
the herbs for that?
and the herbs actually you would use for that, Damiana would be really the herb to use for it. Finally answered your question. Yes.
I want to ask you another question. What about people putting dentures in their mouth? I had dentures in my mouth, partials, for over 12 years, and then I used to take them out every night. But then this one night I couldn't get them out, and it was in there about a whole week, and I couldn't pull them down. And then finally I got them down, and my mouth was so sore up under there, and it had swelled over that metal. And then I said to myself, when I started to get something to eat, my mouth was so sore, it took me a whole week to kind of heal my mouth out. And then I found that after I took that metal out of my mouth, I wasn't tasting food for 12 years. Because that metal, and you put food in there and on your tongue, you get a little taste of it, but that metal at the root of your mouth, it takes a lot of taste out of your mouth too. And next thing you know, I was like, when I had the false teeth in my mouth, I was always wanting something to chew on, always wanting something to eat. And people say, you get heavy, you get fat. I said, you get fat because you don't have nothing to tell you that you had enough to eat. And you just, because of that metal that's been in your mouth. Now, I haven't had that metal in my mouth now 2 years, and I don't get that I want to eat. I have to eat, and want something to eat all the time. And my mouth is getting a lot better, and I taste food better. And if I drink something, the liquid goes down much easier. And I can't take pills because all them years I had that metal, and I kept saying, how come I can't swallow a pill? So I don't like pills today because I used to gag, used to get stuck up in there. And I say it came from that metal sitting in the back of my mouth. And so now, if I want to take something, I like to take a lot of liquid stuff. So I just want to know, was it bad for 12 years that I had that metal in my mouth every day? Did it take something away from my purities and things that were in my mouth? Because my gums were swelling, and then sometimes you want to sleep and your mouth is, your mouth gets crooked because you have this metal sitting in your mouth. So I just want to know from you, is it good to put false teeth in your mouth? If you should, I'm not talking just for me, but it did a lot to my mouth, I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I think you answered all those questions. Yeah, I wouldn't even want to bother that because I might mess it up. No, I think what you did, was the right thing to do, and your body itself is telling you that was the right thing to do, and it definitely was not good for you.
Can the immunization process be reversed in children? This is my understanding.
Yeah, it can be. One of the things to get rid of these inoculations that they're doing is really the sunlight. As much sun as you can get. You're people of the sun, you need that sun. It's just like right now at this particular point in time, we're having a meeting here. If we were having this meeting in an open field outside, even the way your body would respond would be different. But having it inside, it's just that this is a modern day cave.
Yeah.
But we're used to it. This is the way, we can get the most people, to actually listen to what needs to be done. You can always go out into the sun and all that, sometimes we don't do it. But outside is one of the things in Arizona. We have all this place, set up, for people, to sit there and eat. And we've made it, as comfortable as possible. I mean, you know, even if you wanted to sit at the table, you can sit at the table. You don't want to sit at the table and want to sit on the couch and eat, you can do that. On the floor and eat, however it is. But we find that the people, most of the people, take their plate and go outside because it's something about the sun and the elements of the air, especially when it's clean, that, you know, it just tells us that this is actually what we should do. Yes, sir.
I have a sister who has sickle cell. She has to take these pills every day. It kind of bothers me. I really wanted to know if you have anything natural which might help her.
Yeah, we call it 4PG, and the other one is FEY. At the same time, the diet needs to be changed because usually the sickle cell situation is really the consumption of sugar. It's really nothing wrong with sickle cell. Well, it's nothing wrong with the cells. It's just that they become sickle when they're punished with a drug. And usually that drug is sugar. And then this is what causes the flare-ups.
She should stay with the sugar.
Excuse me, brother, can I get a picture with you?
At the end, because we've been trying to fix it.
At the end. Oh, my fault. Oh, sorry about
During the intermission.
Yeah.
My fault. No problem.
I have a question about asthma because it's so prevalent right now among young kids, asthma. Are there natural herbs that you could take for that?
Yeah, usually comfort and fenugreek, you know, will take care of the asthma situation right away.
Why is it spreading so much?
Because that's the diet. The diet is a milk diet. You know, visit somebody in the hospital and watch them bring the plate around. Almost everything on there is dairy.
Eggs.
You know, and that's all that they push. To have strong bones and teeth, you need dairy. That's what they say. But strong dairy actually gives you cavities. It makes your bones weak. Yeah, that's any dairy product. Yeah, it will destroy your bones and destroy your teeth.
Where would you get the source of calcium from? Carrots and things like that?
Well, let's look at, yeah. See, that's a very easy thing to look at, you know, because, see, there is no calcium really in milk. It's just like there ain't no protein in meat. Because if you looked at it this way, is that you got to eat meat, you got to drink milk to get calcium and protein. But you know cows don't eat meat and cows don't drink milk.
So where they get it?
So they got it from someplace. You know, so when they was eating, you know, the vegetation, the grains and all that, that's how they got the calcium. And that's the same way, you know, you get the calcium. You know, I think the last time that I had some dairy products, I was probably about 12 years old.
Never had a broken bone. Never had a broken bone.
Never had a broken bone.
Or a calf.
I lost a finger, but and got his back, but that's as close as I've had. I mean, even in playing football and all that, basketball, taking all those beatings, still hadn't had no broken bone.
What are good sugar substitutes?
A sugar substitute? Let's see, what's your husband's name?
That'll be your sugar.
That's your sugar.
We have 5 minutes to wrap up.
All your fruits and all your fruits are sweet, and that's all the sugar you need. Yeah, if you can't get it from a fruit, you know, you don't need it.
You ever use honey? Does honey fall in there?
Honey? I don't know. You can get home. You can walk through the door and call her honey too if you want to. No, honey is something that you definitely really wouldn't want to deal with, only because If you can go and get the honey yourself, then that's a different situation. But if it's going to be sold in the on the market, it's something wrong with it.
What is your views on chemotherapy, especially the oral chemo?
What is?
You know, when people take chemotherapy through the mouth, you know, like,
The vein or drinking even. The doctor gives you chemo pills. Or
Yeah, it's basically the same as radiation. And anything that is radiation is going to deteriorate the body. In other words, chemotherapy.
Tell somebody not to take it, you know, the doctors say, well, you know, they found a lump, you know, you have to take it for the next 6 months or whatever. You know, to tell them not to, the doctor told me, would you recommend not, you know, them not doing it, or you don't?
I recommend them not doing it. Because even if you talk to the doctor and the doctor tells you, you know, to take that, you know, he'll say it will prolong your life and maybe another month. You know, so if it's only going to deal with it on a month basis, then you might as well not do it at all and take another alternative so you can be around here for a few more years. You know, this is the kind of thing. It has, and another thing too, it is one of those things that actually will kill, I mean completely kill the melanin content in your body.
They take those, the vein, you know, the lymph nodes out. You know, you take the lymph nodes out, you know, just for protection. You agree with you know, with that sort of, like, you know, you might, like, I know a woman that has cancer probably as big as a racer head. And so they took that out, and they took the lymph nodes out. They told her for 6 months or a year or whatever, she had to take the oral chemo. And, you know, and I was, and to me, I was wondering, I always wanted to know whether it was beneficial to her or not. And then taking all them organs out of her, you know, to me it was pretty small, too, what they saw. You know? And she's older.
Yeah. Okay, I want to thank everybody, you know, for not throwing any rocks and bricks at me. And I hope I might have said something, you know, that, you know, might be of benefit to you.